Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Lytham Partners Summer Investor Conference. My name is Ben Shamsian, Vice President. For those of you who are new to us, Lytham Partners is one of the country's leading investor relations firms. With more than 2 decades of corporate access experience, we've built one of the industry's most diverse and effective platforms for connecting small cap companies with high quality and focused institutional investors. Thank you for joining us here for our cryptocurrency panel. We are joined by 5 executives from great companies to get some insights on how they see the space. I've gathered some topics that are of interest to investors and hope to learn from our panelists. Before we begin with our discussion, I would like to have each of you gentlemen introduce yourselves and provide a brief description on your companies. Wojciech, we'll start with you.
Thank you, Ben. Hello, everyone. My name is Wojciech Kaszycki. I am CEO and founder of Mobilum. We are a part of TechX family. We are a fiat on-ramp, off-ramp for crypto market, a payment infrastructure provider for the crypto industry, working with wallets, with exchanges. And we provide also liquidity. We help people who are familiar or unfamiliar with crypto world to onboard and to buy their first cryptocurrencies.
Thank you. Lewis.
Hi, my name is Lewis Bateman. I'm the Chief International Officer of Voyager Digital. We are a publicly traded company on the Canadian Stock Exchange, and our focus to date has been in the US market as a broker-dealer trading app for cryptocurrencies. We offer 50 plus cryptocurrencies and also an ability for clients to receive a reward or interest rate on those assets held with us.
Thank you. Domenic?
G'day, my name's Domenic Carosa. I'm the founder and chairman of Banxa. Banxa is listed on the TSXV, code BNXA. We're a payment service provider, specifically for the digital asset industry. We plug in our payment rails and our compliance infrastructure into global crypto to crypto exchanges like Binance and OKX and Huobi. And ultimately what we're doing is helping the 98% of people that are yet to get involved in crypto to basically convert their fiat into Bitcoin, Ethereum, or other coins.
Thanks, Domenic. Greg Feller?
Yeah, thank you. Greg Feller, president and co-founder of Mogo. We are a publicly listed company on NASDAQ and the TSX under ticker Mogo. We are Canada's leading digital wallet. We have 1.6 million members in Canada, and we help consumers manage their financial lives through our digital wallet. We also are vertically integrated in a number of areas, including on our card. We recently acquired an issuer processor. And we have a close to a 50% stake in CoinSquare, the leading crypto exchange in Canada as well.
Thank you. And Chris.
Hi, my name is Chris Naprawa. I'm the president of Tal Distributed Networks. We also trade on the Canadian Stock Exchange here. And what TAAL is a blockchain infrastructure company, and we help enable enterprise applications get on chain.
Great, thank you. Thanks for that. Let's get into some topics of interest. Many of you interact with the retail customer base. Help us understand who these folks are, why they like to be involved in the cryptocurrencies, age range, any behaviors that you found from them to be interesting or surprising. Greg, I'll begin with you.
So as I mentioned, we have about 1.6 million members in Canada. The majority of our members, I would say, are millennials and increasingly Gen Z. So you think about, consumers that have grown up in a digital world. We think crypto is extremely relevant to that next generation consumer that is, used to all things being digital. Even things like being open 24/7. The idea that the equity markets are not open 24/7 is kind of foreign and antiquated to a lot of younger users. And so we believe that the next generation consumer wants access to cryptocurrencies. We see it as a new asset class. And our goal is to really be the first point of experience for Canadians to start using and getting exposure to crypto. I would say that we also see crypto as a gateway product for the younger generation to start investing and learning. We believe very strongly in financial literacy and really helping all consumers understand how to get in control of their financial lives, the power of compounding, the power of investing long-term, the power of diversification. A lot of people have said that cryptocurrency actually is inconsistent with that because it's hugely volatile. We actually see it differently. We believe the only way to actually get the next generation involved is by engaging them, and cryptocurrency is a great way to engage them for all the reasons we've talked about. And through that engagement then enables you to start educating them and giving them other tools and information that make them smarter on their finances, and then potentially build out a broader investment portfolio diversified outside of crypto. And we see crypto as probably a 10x engagement factor of products on our platform. So that means that if somebody's using crypto, they are 10 times more active in the account than they are with most of our other products. So it is a big engagement product.
That's great. Louis, love to hear your thoughts on this.
Well, I think I appreciate Greg really summarizing the efforts of what Mogo is doing. It's very similar to our thought process, and certainly the engagement level that our Voyager relationships have, our consumers have had to date. We've had exceptional growth over the last several months. We continue to add on clients on a daily basis. We have over 1.6 million validated and verified clients on our platform to date. And we're extending that growth. And very much like what Greg was talking about, we've been focused in the US market for the main focus, but we are expanding our growth and our life cycle outwardly into the Canadian market and European market through acquisitions and organic growth.
That's great. Now, looking at things from a corporate or enterprise standpoint, how do you see the enterprise world adapting to blockchain technology in general, cryptocurrencies in particular? Chris, love to begin with you.
I think, you separate the blockchain from the crypto for a moment. If you just look at blockchain technology, which a lot of it is being adopted in a non-financial way, 55% of enterprises, I think this was a Gartner research report this year, think that blockchain is essential to their future development, and that compares to about 43% in 2019. So, this has been on the radar of large enterprise for a long, long time, and I think there's certainly not a financial institution in the world today that isn't trying to figure out the strengths and opportunities of blockchain itself. On the flip side, I think a lot of the financial side, the financial world sees crypto as an existential threat, and they're trying to very rapidly catch up as these amazing entrepreneurs on the panel with me today are starting to, figure out that there's real businesses out there and that consumers and investors are really, really interested in it. But we feel very strongly about the underlying technology of the blockchain itself, and I think in 3 to 5 years' time, every man, woman, and child on Earth is going to be using blockchain the same way that they use the internet. They don't know how it works. They don't really care. What they want are applications that make their lives easier and will make their lives better. And I think that's the real next big push to legitimize this market.
That's great. Domenic, would love to hear your thoughts here.
I haven't been in the space since 2014. My view is that blockchain is only going to become increasingly more important for companies. And I know there's been a lot of talk globally around the vaccine passport, and whether you agree or disagree with that is a separate philosophical discussion. But I think ultimately, if you were to look at what would be a implementation of the blockchain that actually makes perfect sense, it would actually be aligning the vaccine passport onto the blockchain, in an open and transparent way. And so, I mean, that's one of a number of examples. And you only need to look at some of the sites where a number of the vaccine databases have already been hacked. And anyway, I'm not going to get into that kind of like political detail, but suffice to say that blockchain technology is here to stay. Crypto, which really sits over the top of blockchain technology, is really creating effectively a new form of financial system. And I think we're going to look forward 10 to 15 years. And just looking at the question previously about, who's getting involved. Our customer base at Banxa are B2B, but we obviously see all the transactions going through our customers like Binance, OKX, and Huobi. The core market's 18 to 45, predominantly male, about 80% male skew. I think Greg was talking about let's call it the velocity of people actually getting involved and transacting and interacting materially higher than other industries I've ever seen. And because of the fact that the industry never sleeps, it kind of breeds a certain kind of personality and a certain kind of interaction when it comes to everything crypto.
That's great. Thank you for that. As cryptocurrencies gain broader acceptance, we're likely to see increased regulation. What are your thoughts on regulation in general and how your business will manage and even thrive in an increasingly regulatory environment? Domenic, love to start with you.
Really 3 key words: fit for purpose. Fit for purpose, I think, is the key message to all the regulators out there. Part of the problem that Banxa solves, other than the payment rails, is really the compliance and regulation. We actually started in Australia, and in fact, we were quite lucky that Australia was one of the first countries in the world to actually regulate crypto. And in fact, Banxa has been operating in a regulated model since 2018. What I think it's going to do for companies like Banxa is actually help create a moat around us, because any new player wanting to get involved in the space ultimately not only needs to be able to provide the payment infrastructure, but also the compliance layer that goes along with it. And for those, all of us here are involved in some way, shape or form, suffice to say, the compliance layer is not a trivial matter. And at the same time, countries around the world are starting to issue licenses. And once again, it's not an easy process. There's a lot of diligence and money and time that goes into receiving these licenses. So I think ultimately regulation that is fit for purpose is good for the industry, because governments around the world aren't going to let crypto grow up without that kind of regulation. And I think all around the world, or in most countries, there is some kind of framework or regulation that has been implemented or will be implemented. And I think that's the right thing to do for the industry.
Wojciech, any thoughts?
I have a similar opinion. In my opinion, the regulation is good for our business. It helps us to prevent some crime schemes, which are never good for the industry. As we know, today we observe a mass adoption of the cryptocurrencies. It doesn't go only into the retail, but also commercial and enterprise are looking into it. And there is a need to adopt some regulations which are in a fiat industry to cryptocurrency markets as well. It will help to prevent us with some AML problems, with other things similar. And in my opinion, it goes into the very good direction. Of course, there is a problem that for almost each country, we have a little bit different regulation. In EU, ESMA tries to make it a kind of the common ground for each member states, but we need to adapt. And end of the day, I believe that cryptocurrency will become just another asset class in the general market. So we will have adoption also in the legal space.
Chris, from a more of an enterprise standpoint, thoughts there?
Yeah, well, I think, if you go all the way back to the origins in the very beginning in the white paper in 2008, this blockchain was always meant to be compliant and to be regulated and to be transparent. And, personally, this notion of there's going to be some magic beans out there that people can trade around with no government oversight whatsoever, and we're going to have our own economy, and Goldman Sachs and the Fed and everyone else are just going to give up. I don't believe in any of that stuff is going to happen anytime soon. So, we wholeheartedly support oversight and regulation, and for enterprise adoption, it's absolutely paramount. These companies, most of them being public companies, that want nothing to do with anything that's outside the lines of the regulators or the law. So, taking KYC and AML very seriously and being accountable to the government for however they decide to tax this stuff is absolutely critical for the success of this industry.
Ben,
I would just add to Chris's comments is that I think the whole entire industry in this field is trying to work with the regulators as well. We're not just, we're advocates, and we're trying to help create the policies and the procedures behind it. We're not just taking the understandings, we're actually trying to draft with the regulators and the working communities around. I think that's also a really, formative kind of situation for us, is that, we want to be regulated. We have been an active advocate for regulations, but like what the colleagues on this panel have said is, we need to have the proper fit and the proper understanding that we are still running a business, and the business needs to have efficiencies and scalabilities, and we need to work with our clients, and they need to have an understanding what we need from them. And I think that's really the critical nature of having regulations on this industry is the proper fit, but also the proper understanding that we want to work with regulators in the drafting and in the socialization of this aspect.
Great, Greg, I think you wanted to add something.
Yeah, so I agree with what Lewis just said, and I think speaking from a Canadian company perspective, Canada's actually taking a different approach than the US on this right now, where they are requiring effectively all crypto exchanges and players to be regulated by the Canadian securities industry, very similar to how you have to be registered as a broker dealer on the stock side, and that's something that has just started. That process has just started in Canada, and I think ultimately it is going to be good for the consumer, as long as that the regulators continue to be open on what is an emerging field and emerging technology, and so you can't sort of cookie cutter it. But also, I think it means that this is a business that you are going to have geographically based players, and it is a more challenging business than other non-regulated businesses to go across multiple borders, and so that's why we remain focused right now on Canada, because of the regulatory complexities both in our business and on the crypto side, and we're very focused on being and maintaining our leadership position there. But it does mean that this isn't something that can cross borders from a corporate perspective as easy as other industries.
That's great. Thank you. Cryptocurrencies have had a great run the last 6 months. Some investors are worried about the sustainability. I guess the question I have for each one of you is, how will your business specifically be affected if we have a short-term price reversal? And also, what are some of the catalysts you see that make you believe that prices should sustain or propel higher in the medium to longer range? Wojciech, I'll start with you.
Thank you. So basically, it's a natural process of mass adoption, what we just observed. Each asset cannot grow constantly. There is always market correction. For our business, it's even better, because when there is a quite big correction in the market prices, we observe the demand from the newcomers to onboard, because they always think that the price is too high, so maybe it's better not to enter today because no one knows what will happen. So when the price drops sharply, new people come. They think it's a good moment to enter the space. So basically, in my opinion, it's a natural process. We will see several times the price goes up, the price goes down. We see also more and more people approaching to the cryptocurrency markets. We see also enterprise. I mean, now, at least in Europe, there is a big opening for the corporate treasurers. They are interested in investing into cryptocurrencies to put some part of their treasury management into the digital assets products. So I believe that this is a regular process, a natural process. Moreover, a lot of people, they are looking at the influencers like Elon or others who are providing new information, providing new ideas to the market, and those people are also attracted by them. I believe that the real opening will come when companies like Alibaba, like eBay, Amazon, and others will start accepting cryptocurrencies, start treat cryptocurrency as a means of payment. So I believe that it goes into the very good direction, and this is a natural process.
Great. Domenic, I know volatility is a friend of yours.
In fact, it's May 2021 has been highly volatile for the whole industry, and yet as we announced to the market, it's actually going to be a absolute record for us. So volatility is certainly our friend. People buying the dip, and when the price goes up, newbies not wanting to not miss out. And having been through a number of cycles, this is for me quite normal. I know for people who maybe have exposure more to the equity markets, it can feel a little bit frightening, but I assure you it's the norm when it comes to the whole crypto space. I think just to maybe take a step back and try and paint the picture, and I know people focus on the coins and the prices, and is that important? Yes, it is. But in my view, that's really a bit of a sideshow, and I'll tell you why. What is basically happening, all of these coins and are basically laying down infrastructure that is going to create effectively a new financial system that ultimately, and for the first time in history, will democratize finance. Whether you are sitting in an office in New York, a beach in Bali, or ploughing the fields in Rwanda, you will have access to the same financial resources and tools that high net worth investors have. And I think each of us, in our own way, in regards to each of our companies, is really helping that cause. And for me, the volatility is a sideshow. Ultimately, what this is doing is creating a new financial system that will level the playing fields, and that's what I'm actually so excited about. And for me, that's why I'm here. And ultimately, Banxa's role is around how do we help people go from the fiat US dollar, euro, Canadian world into the digital asset world. And when 100% of people have transitioned, I'll say our job is done.
Thank you. Chris, your thoughts.
Yeah, I think the volatility and the focusing on the coins is a sideshow. It's a fascinating sideshow. It's fun to watch, that's for sure. But I echo everything that Domenic just said there. I think the existential risks here are, listen, not all crypto is created the same. There's some good players and some bad players. Same for the exchanges. And I worry about, as regulation comes in, are some of these, are we going to find out who's swimming without a bathing suit on when the tide goes out? And that could be kind of an existential threat for all of us, but that will be temporary, and we'll get through that. And we're going to settle in on a couple of standards and a couple of protocols that'll make this all make sense globally. But there are some very weird sideshows out there. I'd love one of my esteemed colleagues here to tell me why Dogecoin is worth $44 billion. I haven't heard a good explanation of that one yet. But these are exciting times, and this is the same as what we went through in the mid '90s. As we were all going through the internet, and I had an internet company back then, and most people said, we're not. This is a fad. We're not going to use this. It's mostly just for geeks and for porn and for stuff like that. But we're not going to really adopt it. And it's the same for blockchain. We're going to use it for absolutely everything. And currency and transactions, one application, but there's many, many more.
Thanks, Greg. Your thoughts? I know your business is quite from being tied to the coin price. Not even much of an issue, but stock prices and so forth and perception are all what you as an executive you have to think about. So talk us through that.
Yeah, so just to answer Chris's question on Doge, if you saw Elon Musk's tweet recently, he said the difference between why he's a bigger bull on Doge than some of these other coins is Doge has the dogs and the memes. But anyway, I mean, look, we're clearly at an early stage of adoption of this new asset class, and so I think volatility is common in this phase of adoption, and it does make it difficult for more traditional investors to participate in it when it's super volatile, and it does make it, more risky for consumers, and so I think our view is consumers have to be smart about it. We are big believers in long-term, the value of the space. And we are believers that, Bitcoin is effectively, becoming the new digital gold. But we also believe that price will continue to be volatile for years to come. But in the long run, we think the direction is up. But I think educating consumers that having a diverse portfolio, things like dollar cost averaging, a whole bunch of things that we kind of think are relevant in investing in any asset class, much less a super volatile asset class, we think becomes really critical, because what you don't want to do is have a whole bunch of people that put a lot of money in all at once and then lose it, and people kind of just get shell shocked on this as an asset class, when we all know this volatility is going to continue. The reality is, and Lewis knows this with their business as well, volatility generally drives volume. And so businesses like Voyager and like our investment in CoinSquare, have generally been seeing record volumes during these periods of volatility. And so volatility turns out to be a good thing from a business perspective, for the exchanges, but in the, and I think we're going to continue to have a volatile, period here for the foreseeable future. But there's no doubt that its adoption is continuing to increase globally, and more players like a PayPal to bring more users into Bitcoin and start to learn about crypto is going to continue to fuel that adoption.
Lewis,
Go ahead, Lewis.
I would just add to what Greg was saying is that I think from our perspective, we realize that there is volatility, and one of the things that part of the historical launch of our business is we added on with 22 of our coins the ability to gain a reward or interest rate on top of that, to hopefully be that kind of respective protection on their coin holdings, that they still get a rate of return with an interest rate accrual on their deposits. And so there is some forms of ways of kind of mitigating those risks, and it's certainly a diversified portfolio like Greg was talking about, and respectively giving a real education behind each coin, understanding what protocols you're buying into, what blockchains you're purchasing. Like Chris said, what is Doge? What are the things that you're looking to? Is it truly just a speculative play that you think that is going to have a long-term return, or is it a short-term situation, i.e., you just want the total net performance? And those are the things that each person needs to understand before they go into the space. And whether it is the crypto space or the equity space or fixed income space, they all have cyclical and ups and downs in the marketplace, and that's never going to change. That is the market. And I think we're going to, especially in this early time period, these early stages, although it's been 10 plus years, we're going to see even more of that on the near term and long term.
I would add something.
Yeah, I would add only to that one thing, because I remember when we launched in EU the first 8 years, alternative trading systems, there was a lot of newborn companies who started their listing on this, and basically it was like Dogecoins, but with another names. It was pump up, pump down. Some people lose money, some people earn money. It's a natural process. Every market in the stage goes through the same way. So it's a natural way with crypto. What we need to be aware of is not to, let's say, market the products to people to increase the speculation, but more education about the long-term investment, because the direction is only up.
Chris, you wanted to add something?
Sure. Listen, we saw it in 2000 with .com, 2008 with housing. You combine speculation with excessive leverage, it ends badly for a lot of people.
Great, thank you. All right. Currently, the market caps of the top three coins, Bitcoin, Ethereum, Binance Coin, make up about 3/4 of the total crypto space. How do you see this dynamic in 2 years? For example, will we see 10 large players? Louis, I'll start with you.
Well, appreciate the question. It's an interesting question because Voyager has seen, and we kind of even publicly announced this just in the last couple of days on our financials, is that 85% of our revenues came from our altcoins, and only 15% came from I'll call it the larger cap names. And I think it's a cyclical situation. You have these periods where Bitcoin will be strong and highly active, and people will take profits and then speculate into these smaller coins or these alternative coins, and vice versa. When those coins get more expensive, they'll move back to the more steadfast coins that have been operating for a longer period of time. And I think that will continue for quite a while as they normalize the position. And as I've said before, and I was in the ETF space a long time ago, and seeing that growth and seeing this growth, you're going to have this kind of asset diversification and asset planning and asset movement for either the short term and the long term.
Wojciech, love to hear your thoughts, specifically also with regards to, I know TechX is working on a stable coin. If you can help us there.
I believe that the crucial word here is a democratization, which we already mentioned several times during the discussion. The whole blockchain space and those crypto coins is all about democratization. I believe that Bitcoin will survive as the coin number one, as a mother of other coins. But I believe that what we observe today, for example, with Matic or other, let's say, infrastructure coins, which are gaining their momentum, is the more focus on the real usage, on the real protocols and the coins which back those protocols. If you will compare the crypto market to the regular markets, even Forex industry, you will see that there is a lot of different players which have a different usage of the particular market. So we see enterprise customers which use FX for hedging their positions, their contracts. We see speculators, we see hedge funds, we see different players playing with the foreign exchange currencies. It's the same with the cryptocurrencies. I believe that moving forward, we will see a lot of projects for money remittance, which will use the benefits of blockchain to move money between countries cheaper, faster. So I believe that the top 10 of the cryptocurrencies in few years will look totally differently than today, but I believe that Bitcoin will become the number one.
Domenic?
Yeah,
you're keen on.
I mean, personally, I hold Bitcoin and Ethereum as most of my coins, just because I kind of have a set and forget type approach. But just to maybe take a step back, I mean, from a Banxa perspective, we're agnostic in terms of who's going to end up winning the race, who's going to be the most popular coin or coins out there. Like anything in life, the Pareto principle usually applies. 20% of the coins will be worth 80% of the market cap. And whether it's Ethereum, the Binance coin, Hedera or Polkadot, or coins that haven't even come up yet, I think ultimately, the market will decide based upon their utility. And I think one of the sort of big challenges in the space for a lot of consumers, back in the olden days, if you wanted to get involved in any coins, you had to basically go straight from, fiat, Bitcoin, maybe wrap your Bitcoin, convert it into another coin. And services like Banxa now are effectively allowing customers to go straight from fiat directly into DeFi coins and allowing consumers to actually generate a yield without having to be technical geniuses around, how do you convert one coin to another, or how do I even use MetaMask? And I think ultimately, I think a few of the panel said it before, as soon as the customer is using the technology and getting what they want out of it without them actually knowing about the blockchain and private keys, this is when this whole industry will become mass market. And I think each of us in each of our ways are trying to demystify and make it really, really simple for the other 98%, because the other 98% aren't really that technical. And frankly, they shouldn't have to be nerds, maybe like some of us around this webinar, to actually use the technology. So really, in summary, I think we're going to continue. I think, first of all, I think Bitcoin will still be the granddaddy of them all, even in 10, 15 years' time. And who the other coins are will be determined upon their utility.
Got it. Thank you. Last question. Each of you can go here.
Can I just ask a quick question? Domenic, can you separately offline explain to me actually how to use Meta?
Yeah, I was actually going to talk to Greg, because you're talking about your exchange and taking it global in other markets with compliance. Anyway, that's a separate conversation we can have offline. I'll get your details from Ben.
We'll have a webinar. We'll have a webinar with Domenic teaching. And finally, just what are some of the risks, real quick, for your company in particular, or the industry in general, that you see over the next medium term, 2 to 3 years? I'll start with you, Wojciech.
So basically, as I said before, it's all about the mass adoption. Mass adoption requires good political, let's say, momentum, requires, let's say, good regulations. So the biggest risk which we see and which we are worried of is about the regulation, about how different governments will see and perceive the cryptocurrencies. What we saw lately behind the Bitcoin drop regarding the China and other informations from the world, this is the biggest risk. But I believe that it's like adoption of everything. I mean, we were seeing the same with the internet or with other things in the past. I believe that if the regulation will follow, and if the companies like ours will help the regulators to understand the market and to prepare the proper regulations for the market, there will be no risk for us.
Thank you. Domenic, what keeps you up at night over the next couple of years?
It's actually less to do with the industry and more to do with running a business, finding and keeping really good talent. Having been involved in a number of technology-based businesses, that for me that's the thing that keeps us awake at night. And that's one of the number of reasons why we listed the company, was to be able to ultimately share the wealth and the upside with the team. So that way, when people come in the morning into the office or turn on their laptops, they think that they think and they act as if they are an owner of the company, because they actually are. So I always come back down to, what is a business? Business is really a bunch of people in a box of contracts. And so finding, keeping, and building talent, for me, that's the biggest risk, and yet it's also the biggest opportunity.
Thank you. Lewis.
I think obviously we have a real strong mandate to grow out the business internationally over the coming years. And so it's all about scalability. And then we are really trying to service our clients' needs. So we're taking in that informational understanding of our clients and giving them the products and solutions that really they need. And that is going to expand our product lineup from not just offering our application as a buying and selling tool for crypto, but the interest rate accrual that we talked about, cards, credit card and debit cards. All of these things are the things that we're focused in on our growth and the growth projections, both in the U.S. domestic region and also globally on our international growth plan.
Thank you. Chris.
I'll go back to the existential threat of us having that kind of Bre-X moment in the industry and having to get through that. The Mt. Gox stuff was long enough ago that I think things weren't as popular as they are now. So getting through one of those big ones is going to be the next big struggle.
Finally, Greg.
So yeah, I would say that a year ago I would have said regulation was a bigger risk than it is today, because in Canada I think there's a clear regulatory path in our industry, so that is becoming less of a risk, and so kind of a little bit similar to Domenic. I mean, we basically talk about the risk in our company and on us being successful in what we believe is a multi-billion-dollar opportunity comes down to execution, because the technology is there. We are in a leadership position, so it's kind of ours to lose, and so it's really ultimately coming down to execution, which comes down to people, and we're in a hyper-competitive global tech market, where there's a lot of competition for talent. So making sure you're incentivizing and motivating that talent, which is another reason, similar to Banxa, that we went public, and so and we've been winning against big players because people sort of see Mogo as a hybrid between still a very early stage company, but yet a public company as well, with the stability that brings to the table. But I think that's kind of how we look at it. It's really our ability to continue to execute and take advantage of what is a effectively fundamental change and rebuilding of the financial system, and all of us on this panel, we are positioned to be part of that if we can continue to execute.
Great. Thank you, gentlemen. Fortunately, that's all time we have. I want to thank all of our panelists, as well as for everyone for listening. If any investors would like to get in touch with any of our panel companies, please reach out to myself or any members of the Lytham Partners team. Thank you, and have a good day, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.